Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I read all your comments on Cut the Clutter every late night before going to sleep, which is quite late at night. And I notice that several of you, in fact, very many of you, are asking me to speak on this Facebook controversy. So that is what I'm trying to do now. Now, before I choose a subject for Cut the Clutter for a day, we can only do essentially one in a day. It has to pass one special test. One particular test is there should be clutter in the issue, because if there isn't any clutter, something happened somewhere and all of you know, and all of you are very smart people, then I should not be insulting your intelligence by repeating what you already know. So the Facebook story by now passes that test. It passes the test of being cluttered, because we are hearing many things. One, that this is some kind of a right-wing conspiracy. Facebook is a right-wing organization which is promoting the BJP and the Modi government in India. Second, that the key Facebook employee who's been named here, Ankhi Das, who I know well, that she has a personal ideological commitment to BJP, RSS, etc. She has written stuff praising them on her own page. So she is leaning towards this government, and even when Facebook's own internal policing system, policing is not the best word, but system that keeps an eye on objectionable content, pointed out stuff that the one and only Mr. Raja Singh of BJP in Telangana had been saying. He is somebody who claims to be a big Gaurakshak. He's also sparred with me on social media a few times. And he said things like, shoot the Rohingya. He said, bring down, raise the mosques. Really terrible things that one should not even repeat. So that the Wall Street Journal story claimed has not been removed. Now the implication that's floating is, oh, this person must have been responsible for doing it. That is the other one. The next one is which comes from the other side. Funnily, while Congress, being on the losing side of Indian politics, has risen now in protest, saying that, see, we always knew that these global platforms were doing it, particularly Facebook and WhatsApp. Facebook also owns WhatsApp, just as it also owns Instagram. So Facebook was already doing it. We have complained about it. Congress held a press conference. Now Congress has written a letter to Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, asking him to order an inquiry, etc., and meanwhile put an interim management in charge of India. The BJP, on the other hand, has come out in defense of Facebook. In fact, it's so brazen that if I was someone sitting in Menlo Park, which is the Facebook headquarters, I'd be a little embarrassed, and I'll say, boss, itna nahi karo, zyada ho raha hai, because that is actually making Facebook look more partisan. But the BJP and its spokesmen also have a view. They attack the Congress and they say that in the past they might have also helped you, they still help you, etc., and so used to work with Congress party, etc. So this allegation and counter allegation is going on. In the middle of all this, something has also emerged about why Wall Street Journal broke this story, investigated this, and I have seen this on TV discussions. Many people who are defending Facebook or who are coming in from the BJP side, I saw it on Rajdeep Sardesai's debate also last night. They are saying, oh, what do you expect from Wall Street Journal? It is a left-wing publication. So these are the various elements that now give us some clutter, because we are looking at the motives of various players here, starting with Facebook. Now, so that is what I'm going to look at today. Now, what is Facebook? What is Facebook? What is Google? What is Amazon? What is Microsoft? What is Apple? Now, in the global debate, there is an acronym GAFA. GAFA is Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. You can switch the two A's. So these four companies dominate the world economy, the world, not just the economy, not just the world markets, but also the world attitudes, popular culture, media, public debate. In fact, now instead of these four, this acronym has been expanded to GAFAM. So Microsoft also has been added to it. Now, if you look at these five companies, look at how big they are on the global scene now. They have market caps or net worths bigger than most nations' GDP. I'll just give you an example, and this is data for just today, but this data can change a little bit now and then. But today, Apple has a market cap of $1.96 trillion. India's GDP this year is estimated to be just over $3 trillion. So Apple itself is 1.96. In fact, if Apple was a nation today, it would be the 10th largest economy in the world. The 10th largest, that is after America, China, India, Canada, Japan, etc., etc. The 10th largest. Again, if you look at the rest, Microsoft is $1.58 trillion. That is, its market cap is more than the GDP of 13 nations in the world. In fact, at this point, 15 nations in the world. Even Amazon, 1.57 trillion, about the same level. Alphabet, which owns Google, 1.02 trillion. So if you go to Google, Poetic Justice, and look at the ranking of countries by nominal GDP, you will find that Alphabet will be about the 16th, just under Indonesia, which is a country of a very large population. The largest number of Muslims in the world live in Indonesia. Facebook, because that is the one that's in firing line right now, is $750 billion. Now, if you compare this with the rest, it's about just over just a little more than 1/3 of Apple. It's about a half of Amazon and Microsoft. But $750 billion is almost 4 times as big as India's most valuable company, that is Reliance Industries. And no surprise that Facebook has now made a multi-billion-dollar investment in Reliance Jio. So that is how big these companies are, because they are the ones who represent the gig economy of our generation. So if you take any two of these 5 companies, they are already more than all of NSE top 50's total market value. And that's about 70% of all of NSE's market value. So you see the power that these companies have. So when you look at Facebook, you're not looking at a company that's just coming and trying to fight an ideological battle here and there. These are companies driven by only one objective, that is profit and to get value for their shareholders. Everything else doesn't matter. Once again, you really want comparisons, look at New York Times, which is an institution, and I will then come to the next level, lift the next layer to explain this clutter to you. New York Times market value is $7.3 billion. That is what? That is maybe less than almost 1% of Facebook. News Corp, which owns the Wall Street Journal, which published this story, and again there are dark conspiracy theories that Rupert Murdoch told his reporters, go attack Mark Zuckerberg because I am his rival. News Corp itself is only $8.9 billion, including everything. So all these are a fraction of these gig economy companies, because that is the way the world is right now. Now, let me lift what I think is the most complex layer from this. What is Facebook? What is Twitter? What is Google? What is Apple? These are not publishers. They produce no editorial. People like us, we are in a way, the blue collar workers of this gig economy. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post and the Financial Times and the Economist and the Times of India and the Indian Express and the print We are the blue collar workers of this gig economy. So we produce stuff for which these big daddies or big mummies provide the marketplace. They own the market, they own the pricing, they also own the power to decide how much of what price they charge will stay with them and how much will come with us, which is, in fact, I should have said how little will come with us. In fact, our lives as in publishing, any journalists, any publishing are simply not possible without these five. If I am speaking with you right now, I am recording this on an Apple camera. You are watching it on YouTube, which is owned by Google. My research was done on Google. You will also watch it on Facebook, and I do all my work in Microsoft software. So our lives are not possible as journalists, as public commentators, as public debaters without these five, except that these fives get much more value out of our creativity than any of us does. But that is the way the gig economy is set up. So let me just take a little digression for storytelling, because most of you are watching me on YouTube. So YouTube CEO now is Susan Wojcicki. YouTube is owned by Google. YouTube CEO is Susan Wojcicki, a brilliant young woman, 52. In early 90s, she came in as a fresh college graduate to work as an intern in the photo section of India Today magazine, where I used to work. And see her tweet here. She posted a picture, a throwback picture from that time, 25 years back. She posted this in 2018. See the Hall of Fame of great Indian news photographers there. All my former colleagues, you can see from left to right. Sharad Saxena, unfortunately no more now. Hariom Gulati, Bhavan Singh, again unfortunately no more, passed away last year. Pramod Pushkarna and Prashant Panjiyar. With all of them, I have done many tours of duty, and they've all been great photographers. So YouTube is just one element in the empire of Google. So they have all this power. Now for them, because they function almost like nation states now, like sovereign nations, they operate in their major markets as if they were nations, and their offices operate in major markets like they were embassies of sovereign nations. So to say that Facebook did something in India which was wrong, that is one argument. To say it was done by an individual, that is a dicey argument, because these companies function not just as sovereign nations, but also as sovereign nations who are superpowers. When you have a superpower mindset, you don't let individual employees, no matter how powerful, how influential, how useful they may be, to guide your policy or to hijack your policy based on their own ideology. Because if Facebook employs 40,000 people across the world, there must be people with different ideologies. But a big corporation like that, this is the firm. Remember the movie? This is the firm. None of the others, whatever views they have, whatever positions they have, will not matter. They'll all work towards one common objective, which is profit maximization and value maximization for the shareholder, led in this case by Mark Zuckerberg himself. Now, how big these companies are, and once again, to take forward my argument that they are more like sovereign nations, and they are more like sovereign nations who are superpowers. So who is the person for Facebook who heads their global? He is the vice president for global affairs and communication. It is like, if you see Ankhi Das in India, who's the Ankhi Das for all of the world for Facebook? It is Nick Clegg. Name rings a bell. Nick Clegg, again a young man still by political standards, was the Deputy Prime Minister of United Kingdom between 2010 and 2015 for a full 5 years. He also led the Lib Dems in Britain, Liberal Democrats, from 2007 to 2015, 8 years. He's been hired as VP Global Affairs and Communication. That is a euphemism for which I will find yet another euphemism, which is environment control. So he is the chief environment controller for Facebook. So Facebook is now like a sovereign superpower that can hire the former deputy prime minister of a P5 nation to do its PR and communication. So that is what you're dealing with. These are not companies which are driven by one staff member or the other. Where is Facebook coming from? I will tell you something in conclusion, but let me also tell you, they only look at profit. India is their largest market today by way of number of people who follow Facebook, have Facebook accounts, and now WhatsApp and Instagram also. So they need numbers. Gig economy runs on numbers. Remember, these are marketplaces. The more customers they have, the better. Today these customers maybe in America spend more money than in India, they do, but the number of customers matters because it costs you very little, if anything at all, to have more customers. China bars these companies. So Facebook can't go to China. India is the next big country in the world, and Facebook rules social media and these platforms, this market in India. That people make a comparison of Facebook and Twitter. Twitter just looks big for us because some of us, it's an echo chamber for some of us, but Twitter is not even a fraction of Facebook. Once again, I'm going back to my comparisons of market caps because that is the most convenient way of doing it. It's not the perfect way of doing it. If Facebook is 4 times of Reliance Industries, then Reliance Industry is 10 times of Twitter. So you can imagine Twitter is less than 2% of Facebook. So Twitter is not that powerful. It is Facebook with WhatsApp, which has the real power. Now for that, a company of that power or a country of that power, it is what is important? To be friendly with the ruling government of India or to be at odds with the ruling government of India. I don't think a company like Facebook wants to be at odds with the ruling government of any country in the world. Forget India. So they make, even if you read this Wall Street Journal story, which you should, you will find references to how they have made concessions to many other countries, including Vietnam. And these are not liberal concessions, and these are not right-wing concessions. These are concessions so that they can continue working there, because they are platforms, they are marketplaces. People come, sell their stuff there, they charge the money, they fix the price, they charge the money, give you a little chutta on the side. They need the market, and that's how all these companies work. That is the reality we have to understand. Now, the other complex thing I heard about, which was that why did Wall Street Journal do it? There must be a conspiracy to it. So I told you that this idea that Murdoch told 2 reporters to do this stuff up, and also that Wall Street Journal is a horrible crimson left-wing organization. Let's put that in perspective also, because that's the other part of essential clutter here. First of all, far from being left-wing, Wall Street Journal is to the right of the right. It is to the right of Ronald Reagan, it is to the right of Margaret Thatcher, it is to the right of Adam Smith. It is, in terms of his editorial philosophy, the most right-wing publication in the world. And remember, you can be right-wing on the economy and markets, but you can still be liberal. So it's right-wing, but it's liberal. Again, Wall Street Journal has a unique phenomenon, which is a complete separation of the church and the state, not in the sense that we see it in India or in the rest of the world, which is your marketing and sales and editorial. The church and the state there also is the opinion pages and the news pages. Now, American papers all have it, but others have allowed it to merge, and you've seen in the New York Times, the reporters and the others have had a say in where the opinion pages are going, but not in the Wall Street Journal, because Wall Street Journal opinion pages set the agenda for the paper, and they're very much setting up an agenda of the right. So I will just give you an example. We spoke in detail about the controversies in the New York Times when a large number of staffers protested about some articles that were carried on the op-ed page, particularly an article by Senator Tom Cotton of Republican Party, after which led to the departure of the op-ed page editor and his deputy in very quick succession. Now, following that, 280 staffers of the Wall Street Journal also wrote a letter almost similar to their publisher Almar Latour, where they said that the opinion pages were not checking their facts, opinion pages were giving space to people who were writing stuff that was making their reporters' lives difficult, etc., etc. And immediately some people would have thought that now there will be a reaction of the kind that a similar protest had got from the New York Times. But what did the Wall Street Journal say? First of all, the publisher himself said, look, we have a separation of church and the state. He didn't use those words. He said of the news pages and opinion pages, and that's a tradition and we'll follow it. But the op-ed page editors wrote a note to editors, a note to readers. So I will quote in some detail from this note to you so you understand what the Wall Street Journal is. Now, this is a note to readers that they published in the paper, and there are many on the liberal side of American media who consider it disrespectful to their own staffers in the news section. But this note says, it was probably inevitable that the wave of progressive cancel culture would arrive at the journal, Wall Street Journal, as it has at nearly every other culture, business, academic and journalistic institution. But we are not the New York Times. This is the Wall Street Journal op-ed editors writing to their readers. We are not the New York Times. These pages won't wilt under cancel culture pressure. Then they go on to say, in the spirit of collegiality, we won't respond in kind to the letter writers. Their anxieties are not our responsibility in any case. Tough writing, it's a tough response. This is not like the New York Times. And then they say that our news reporters cover everything fairly down the middle, which means our news reporters have no pressure to lean on the right or on the left. So they cover everything fairly down the middle. Our opinion pages offer an alternative to the uniform progressive views that dominate nearly all of today's media. And then they conclude, we promote principles of free people and free markets, which are more important than any culture of growing progressive conformity and intolerance. So that puts in perspective the idea that the Wall Street Journal may have gone after Facebook for its supposed support to the BJP in India because it is left wing. It is the exact opposite of that. Having said that, back to Facebook. Why is the Facebook doing what it's doing? Look, Facebook will salam anybody who is in power in a country. Today the BJP is in power, they are salaming BJP. This is a line that late Dhirubhai Ambani used in an interview he gave to T.N. Nayanan in India Today. T.N. Nayanan said, you are very, very close to the government or something like that. Which party are you close to? And he said, I'll salam anybody in power. So Facebook is like that. Any of these companies will salam anybody in power. Any of these companies will let any Prime Minister of India hug them, and they'll do it with a big smile, irrespective of who the Prime Minister is, because they want the Indian market. So if the Congress was in power, they will do the same thing with the Congress. So the message to the Congress from Facebook would be, they will not say it, कि boss, आपकी औकात क्या है? क्योंकि हम जो कुर्सी पे होता है, उसको सलाम करते हैं. So I will conclude it with a line from Wall Street. In case you have seen the film, it was an immortal line among the many immortal lines from Gordon Gekko, where he says, it's all about Buck's kid, the rest is conversation. So that is what Mark Zuckerberg, sorry to compare him with Gordon Gekko, but that is what Mark Zuckerberg is telling India. It's all about Buck's kid, the rest is conversation.